So today I'm joined by my guest, Mr. Richard Abbott from Inventory Hive. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Yeah, a little bit tired on the back of the Property Mark 1 exhibition.
I saw you there. I saw you stand. I caught up with Mitch, and everybody is teasing me. You're teasing me that you've got new things coming out.
We have, yeah, always on the warpath for new
Come
features.
on, it's me you're talking to, and all the other agents. Come on, share it.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we did the big unveil on Sunday, features that we've been working on for over a year now, and in a nutshell, it's diary with maps. I suppose that the easiest way to explain it is we know that it's an age-old problem for agents. Coordinating property visits is perhaps a good example. So things like playing email tennis with tenants, trying to work out whether they're going to be in when you do the visits, whether they're not going to be in, whether the tenant wants to reschedule. 9 times out of 10, that leads to tenants sending an email back manually or picking up the phone, heaven forbid, and actually having a conversation about stuff that really should happen, automated, tech-driven, and that's what we've built.
And you're taking care of the sort of diary management, but it's also time management as well, isn't it? Because you are, well, first of all, you're freeing up the agent's time actually spent in organizing this, but that whole mapping procedure that you've got there is actually quite clever because you're saving time by building a route that makes sense rather than sending somebody to the end of the earth and back.
Yeah.
You can get to plenty of other places on the way.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, one of our biggest customers is Leaders Romans Group, and for them, it was when they work out all the pain points, it was a massive issue. And the way that they were doing things was, email would go out to the tenant from a traditional sort of CRM approach, which just basically diarizes and tells them when they're coming, but it didn't track whether they were going to be in, whether they could use management keys. There was no means for the tenants to suggest an alternate time. And then a big kicker was their teams will often jump onto Google Maps and then work out where some of their team members are to try and work out who's the most efficiently placed to go and do that particular visit. So,
yeah.
And that's essentially what we built on the Google Maps integration is they can look at a map view for that day and then see, I don't know, based on a working area for a certain individual, whether they were better, in a better location from the previous property or where they're generally based, to go and do that visit. So they can click on it on the map and then assign appointments from a map view as well as a diary view. So as you can imagine, it's been a bit of a beast to develop because there's lots of things that can happen.
I bet very often the things that sound the simplest to do are going to be the worst to sort of develop and to get it into a format that an agent can use easily and the apps don't glitch and all that sort of stuff. I think it takes time, it takes testing, and I know the pain of it. Yeah,
this is it. And I suppose for us as well, because intentionally back in the day we didn't want to have a diary in there to start with. We wanted to focus on general reporting and features. So I feel like this has come at the right time, because rather than rushing it in early back in the day and just having a simple diary that, let's face it, you get with Outlook as a standard. So we did research with agents in general, obviously not just leaders, and we kind of said, well, what do you typically use as your calendar? So Outlook was by far the most popular sort of diary. So we based the layout and the approach of it in a similar way. So they can switch between a day view and see a list of their users, as well as see a sort of global view as well. So there's so many little things that we've had to think about, because usability is a massive issue, and actually we know that's one of the main reasons people come on board with Hive in the first place, because of the usability and obviously the quality of the reports. But yeah, that's a key bit. And
well, no one could ever have accused you guys. I mean, you're award-winning, not just because the people that hand out the shiny trophies say so, but based on the feedback from your customer base, which is huge. But nobody would ever accuse you of being not feature rich. It's packed with features and it's functionality. This sort of just it puts in another layer of functionality that really sort of gives back even more time to the agency.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's great.
Yeah, and I suppose for us as well, in terms of our marketing with this, is unlike other in the past where it's easy to say, oh, this is effortless and does this and that. But what we've been doing is really focusing on the time piece and saying, well, we know we can save with every single interim visit, just purely office admin time. We know we can save at least 20 minutes with every one of these interims. And of course, that time can vary if the tenant wants an alternate time.
Yeah.
So if the tenant got the email and the text to say we're coming to visit in the morning of next week, they can then go back and say, well, actually, I want to be in, but that time doesn't work for me. So they get a 2-week window to choose from, but they can only choose from dates where there are team members available, because it looks up who's available. Now the tenant can suggest this alternate time. They don't control the diary, because obviously that's a dangerous thing to let tenants have full control over it, but it allows them to suggest an alternate time, which can then be sanctioned, and then it goes back and confirms once they're happy with that. But of course, they don't have all this manual sort of email tennis. We had to get legal advice. We use JMW solicitors for that as well, because obviously there's all sorts of issues around 24 hours notice, when you can use management keys and all of that stuff. So that's a big thing. And of course, it's not just about interims, it's about booking in the inventories and the checkouts and everything as well, which of course leads on to the next piece of the jigsaw puzzle for these features, and that is we're going to enable our agents to take that data out. So Leaders Romans are a good example. They're very much focused upon being sustainable and going down the carbon neutral approach. So for them to understand and coordinate things in an efficient way and say, right, okay, how many miles has Joe Bloggs traveled this month? How much time did he spend traveling? If an inspection didn't go ahead, what was the reason for it? Is it because the tenant didn't give access? So by pulling that data out every month and analysing it, they can kind of say, well, is there a reason why visits aren't going ahead for a particular reason, and to be able to pinpoint that.
Is there a reason David was meant to do 6 inspections but only managed to do 1 and was away for 2 days? No.
Yes. Yeah, no.
But it is great, isn't it? Because it allows you to sort of work out, because we all have this. There are certain people who are better placed to go and do certain tasks because they'll complete it quicker, and you can now assess how that works and who's getting through. I guess it helps you to manage KPIs on the go.
And this is it, and it's that thing, isn't it? Like, CRMs will have these kind of diarising features in there, but actually the key part that and so it's no disrespect to CRMs, the key part that it doesn't have is the actual reporting. So for example, in our system, what will happen is if they do an interim visit today and they submit the report, say tomorrow, what it does is it automates the completion of that in the diary. So it turns it green and says that job's done, because obviously it has a relationship with the property, the tenancy and the report, as well as the diary entry. So joining up the dots of that, it can be a bit it can blow their minds a bit when we first show them, but the moment, this week we've been so busy, which is great. We pushed the features out. We had people signing up for it without even having had a demo.
So that was going to be my next question. You said you've unveiled it. Is it now rolling out to customers? How do they get hold of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if someone's new to Hive, our approach is always making sure that they first of all understand the basics. So we don't like to overload them too much. I mean, as you know, we use 360 cameras on the platform, and our app talks directly to them. We only want to have that direct integration with them. So in that situation, we'll show them how to use the reporting, get them familiar. We give them a lot of love in their sort of 30-day trial period, because if we can get them experts on what they're doing, we get less support. So we really hold their hand in that phase. And then after that, we regularly check in. So what we would do with someone that's new is get them using the basics, and then we'd slowly start to work in, the new features and sort of check in with them, so that we're not sort of overloading them too much too soon. But yeah, I mean, existing users are booking in initial consultations, because as is the case with anything like this, it's not just about saying, showing them what it can do. It's about saying, how do you currently do things, and then how can we take you away from that to move into a more efficient place. That's the plan for introducing those. But yeah, it's been a busy week for the team, because obviously as soon as it landed, we knew it was going to make a lot of noise, which is obviously the plan. And then at Property Mart, at one point we were like 5 or 6, deep on the stand, which obviously
I saw that, and I saw when I caught up with you at the after party, and you were wearing the look of a man that has had a day and a half. But that's great, because sometimes people will say, well, I went to a conference and I didn't get the buy-in that I wanted, but you guys were busy. You had people inquiring.
Absolutely, and it's really comforting when we do those events as well, because it's not just about the new business, it's about checking in with the existing customers, and the fact that we can show them something new is just adds even more value then, because obviously it's let's face it, we're tech, and in order for us to continue to grow, we need more customers, we need to generate more revenue, but by giving them a choice as well. So we haven't forced these features on anybody, but and the way that we've said it is, look, based upon your property portfolio size. So a really good example that we've used is, we've said, say you've got 250 properties and you're doing periodics every 6 months, you're going to do at least 500 interim visits a year. And then we based that and said, right, okay, based upon how long it currently takes you to do that, and say having a staff member that's in the office coordinating it, and we just use a basic example of £15 an hour. We worked it out that we were literally saving them thousands in terms of time, because of course time translates to someone's pay. But we've even had a demo that we did on the diary maps where someone's literally said, well, we could take somebody off office admin and have them going out doing inspections. It's been, they see it as that big a game changer for them, which is,
well, undoubtedly it's going to help them to get through more inspections that way as well. And to me, that the fact that you've gone to the trouble of sort of consulting with people like JMW, and I know their property department very much is involved in changes in legislation and getting through the door. So to have a product that sort of fits within the legal framework, as well as what you're able to do in terms of compliance for an agent, super important. Get and real peace of mind.
This is it. I think as well, it's about them being able to, for example, if I'm out doing an inspection and I've got, say, 5 or 6 in the diary, I want to be able to look at that and say, right, is the tenant going to be in, or have they told me to go ahead and use the keys, or have they not responded at all, or have they requested a reschedule? All of those things are easily accessible for their day via the app. So whether they're on iOS or Android, they can just get directions from one property to the next. They can jump onto Google Maps Street View to see where there might be parking before they get there, and all of that's just straight from the app. So whilst they're out and about. So, but right down to the wording of the email about getting access, because of course you don't need permission to get access. They can refuse it,
but you need to give that notice in a certain way, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, you need to give that 24 hours notice, but obviously making sure that we'd worded everything right. And that it was transparent. So I'd like to think as well that that tenants are going to love this, because let's face it, tenants want convenience as well. They don't want to play that email tennis. We've built it so that they can't game the system either. So if they say wanted to reschedule it and they tried on a third attempt to reschedule, it will come up and say, hey, if you do click this button to request a reschedule, it will lead to an urgent call from the property manager, because you've requested it a few times. And then of course it triggers alerts to the property management team as well to say that you've got one here that is perhaps, not always, of course things happen, but perhaps evading actually having the inspection performed, which can be a red flag. So it's a bit of a monster, but obviously something we're proud of. And we just got to keep pushing on with it now, and as I say, those KPI things will follow in the coming months.
It's superb. I caught up with Mitch at the conference. We've spoken a couple of weeks ago as well, and I think the one recurring theme that sort of runs like that golden thread through all our conversations is the fact that your product you're not just motivated by what the competition are doing out there. You are actually more motivated by what the customers are telling you in terms of feedback. So we love this, but we'd like it to do that. And you are finding ways of making that happen. And I think the best prop tech products that I've seen are those that are informed by the users. I think there's no beating that, is there?
No, absolutely not. And I think it's that thing, isn't it? Like, you would think that something as important as management visits, which, let's face it, for I bet if you surveyed landlords and said what's one of the main reasons you want to outsource, they'd always say compliance, they'd always say time, but the fact that interim visits is a massive one, because that landlord doesn't want to be going and knocking on the door and inspecting their own property.
It's awkward, let's face it.
It is. Yeah, and sometimes, particularly if they're an accidental landlord, it could be an emotional investment, so they're not the best people to go and do those kind of visits anyway, and hence outsourcing it to an agent is the way to go. But if they can, if they can do that key part and just save themselves so much time and hassle, then obviously, it should just be well received all round, which obviously, as I say, so far so good.
Fantastic. Richard, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us about it. I'm really pleased to see behind you, just over your shoulder, is a picture of me.
Yes, absolutely.
For extra inspiration.
Yeah, I just look around every now and then, and it's kind of like, it's a bit like David Brent on The Office, where he's got the magazine on his desk. Of when it's a bit like that, isn't it, with the trophy there? Oh, this old thing. Yeah. No, it's pride of place, because obviously, to scoop a couple of awards was a really nice touch, and hopefully many more to come.
Amen to that. We'll see you there. Take care, Richard. Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thank you.